Well, hello, coaches. Welcome back. We're back with part two of defending in 9v9. A lot of folks had some great comments on the first video. If you've missed that, I'll put a link in the description so you can go back and look at that on the channel. Also, really appreciating all the likes and shares and thumbs up and subscriptions. That's really still climbing. I'm very gratified to see that. Thank you all. If you're not subscribed, come on, help me out. Hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything and helps out the channel immensely. So today we're going to look at the second part of defending in 9v9. And if you remember, in that first video, I talked a lot about 7v7, and I have a couple of videos out there about defensive roles of every one of the positions in 7v7. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to start by going way back in the Wayback Machine and going back to the beginning of the second year of my teams playing in 7v7, so September of their fourth grade year. We're going to take a look at a game real quick to look at those defensive principles, and then we'll fast forward into their fifth grade year, their first year of playing 9v9 in September, October, and take a look at those defensive principles. Because again, I always say, and I always will say, A, 7v7 is my favorite format to coach, and B, everything you need to learn, or at least to start to learn, you can do in a 7v7 format. I sometimes use 7v7 formats when I'm coaching 11v11 because I can get the principles across in a much simpler format and then just scale it up for the kids. So let's go take a look at first fourth grade, probably the third game of their season in the fall. And we'll look at that video first, and then we'll migrate into some 9v9, and then we'll follow it up. All right? Thanks. Okay, so here we are. We're going to take a look, as I said, at first 7v7 game, because as I've said before in my videos, everything you need to learn, you can start to learn in the 7v7 game. So we're going to take a look at those roots of where these principles started, and now we've carried them forward to 9v9. It's not too late if you didn't do it at 7v7, but this is a great format, even if you have a 9v9 team, to play in and scrimmage if you want to simplify things for your players to help them understand some of the principles that you want them to do when you add one or two more players to the field. This is the beginning of their second season of 7v7. So they're now fourth graders. So they've got a year under their belt when they were in third graders. Now they're in fourth grade. Our town, we organize our teams by grade, even though we play in a U10 2-year bracket because we feel it's better for development. And the results have definitely borne that out. So let's take a look and watch the first few minutes of this game. We end up winning this game 5-0. So there's not tons and tons of defensive actions, but in the first 5 or so minutes, you can see the principles and the roots of it starting, which is really what we want to see. We'll run it at like 1.5x just so we can see the shape. I like to watch game video back when I'm analyzing it. I like to watch it at 1.5 to 2x because I don't need to relive every detail. I want to see the big picture flow, and doing that at a faster speed helps me disconnect from the individual actions and be able to just see the whole puzzle move around a little bit easier. So let's do that. I'll pop up the playback speed, and we'll get going here. We do score in like the first minute, which was fantastic here, but then we'll see some of the principles going on. You can already see the shape and the formation going on here. You can see here's my two center backs, wide players, just because we have the kickoff. Here is my, in U7, we call that our 8 instead of a 6, and there's our striker. So we've got our 2-3-1 with that center midfielder being the one that can drop in between the two center backs. I can tell you that number 31, he was a little bit of a wanderer in third and fourth grade because he was still in the mode of chase the ball everywhere, but you could see him starting to figure out, hey, I need to help out my center backs. So again, it's not perfect. It's the real world. This is what we deal with. So let's keep playing here. We'll just see it kick off. My keeper and one of the center backs is acting like a lunatic, but you know, that's part and parcel for goalkeepers, right? All right, so here we go. We'll just play, you can see center back sliding over. But again, even already, right, we'll take a look at the defensive shape we have going on here. We have this player has slid over to cover the center. The other center back has come over here. Here comes my 8 sliding over. This player here is still the widest on the field, and here's my other winger. So we're already in decent shape, and my striker is starting to go away into that space up there. So transition from defense to attack, which is always important no matter what the age. Winger wins that ball, loses it, but there's the 8. Comes right back into the play and steals that ball away, plays it out wide. We actually score here. Nice finish. And that's the 8 that actually finished the goal there. So we won the ball back, got up the field. Good for him. But again, you can see the beginnings. I'm hoping you can see in these speeded up clips the beginnings of those defensive options. My striker goes and plays up and then stays up high. We'll come up wide again. Really unlucky to, honestly, if we watch the first 5 or 10 minutes of this game, part of me wants to know how we didn't score more. Here we could say here, what we've got is, again, some more of those principles. My wide player is coming back to mark the player who's usually he's trying to go after. One of my center backs has come into here. Here comes my other center back. Here is the 8 coming back into the middle. Wide player's a little late coming back, but he's also brand new to our team this year, so he's only been to a couple of weeks of practice. And my striker is still up high. So again, all the components of the things we talk about in 9v9 we're seeing in 7v7 already. So let's just take a moment to talk about one of the other principles we talked about, which is playing defense in the offensive end. We're going to get a throw in here. We're going to take a shot. We're going to lose it. And then you're going to see ball retrieval. We're going to see that counter press to make sure they can't get back up and out. Now, can I say with any certainty why my center back is that far down the line? No, I cannot. But at least there's one behind doing that little jig. You can see here, we take a shot, ball's starting to come out, and the 8 wins the ball back. Wasn't successful. Center back picks it up. The 8 has it again. Again, the center back now comes over, wins the ball. Second center back to the wide player. So it's really difficult for this team to get out. Now they're resorting to long ball, and I'm not sure if he tripped or got taken down, but that's it. So again, we can stop it here just to give an example of what it looks like early on at 7v7. And again, you can at 9v9 break your teams down, play 7v7, and work on some of these principles. Why? Okay, here we are in 9v9. This game is probably the 3rd or 4th of them ever playing 9v9. We're playing on local town. We are still in our quote-unquote transitional formation. So this is the 2-2-3-1 I talked about. We can actually take a look at it right here. You can see here's my 2 center backs, then my double pivot connected here, then we'll call them a 10, wide player, striker. So this is before we switch to that 3-2-3 or 3-4-1, depending on what phase of play it is. But you can see the principles we talk about can work with many different formations. It's just a matter of a set of roles that you get your kids to get used to. If we think about it, just like in 7v7, here's my pair of defenders. They act as a pair. Then my pair of midfielders, which also work very much like a pair of defenders in this particular formation in the way we play. So then we have our central midfielder there, our 10, who's going to act as a little bit more forward placed of that single midfielder that we had in 7v7. And of course, we have our 7 and 11, our wide players, and our 9 up at the top. And let's not forget about the keeper. We'll see how important their role is in different phases of play when we go forward. So the first moment we're going to look at is that principle of the counter press, having a structure around the ball, even when we're attacking, that if we lose it, we can win the ball back quickly. So we're going to watch a little segment here at 1.5 times speed, and we're going to have a throw in. We're going to win and lose and win and lose and win and lose the ball multiple times, but it almost never comes out of the attacking half because our attacking shape has given us that structure. I'll also note a couple of deficiencies we have going on. The first one right away is that this player, this center back, really should probably be over here. And if you could hear the audio, you'll hear somebody shout to him to move over. He kind of gets, they get fixated coming from 7v7. Hey, one of us should be in the center circle when the other player goes wider. But that's on a much narrower field. In a 9v9, we now have to just help them adjust their expectations about the size of the field and say, yes, you might need to be near the center circle, but maybe you need to be the right edge of the center circle when the play is on the far sideline. Let's play this through. See what we get. Throw in. We have possession of the ball. We try to play in the middle. They try to play long. Actually, let's back this up just for 1 second because there's another component I wanted to show here. And that's the white team and what they're not doing well here. And what it is they're not doing is they have no relief valve. Notice all of their players are at the 18 or lower. So there's no danger to my center backs and my 6. We can see them right here. Here's my 6. Here's my center back. And like I said, this center back's in left field, but needs to be over here. But they have nothing to worry about because the white team's closest player to the center line is this player here at the top of the 18. They have no relief valve. If they win this ball, they're practically in a line. You can see them. I can almost draw a line through them all right across the field. So for the white team, part of their structure is they don't have a structure. They've all just sagged back down, and they're down there, and they don't have a relief valve. And you'll see when they lose the ball, they don't have a lot of options. Let's play this through. So we win the ball, play a long ball, but it goes right to my center back. He wins it. We play in the middle, try to play a little 1-2. Back to the center back, bad touch. Okay. Throw it again. This just goes on for a little while here. Good move. Almost breaks through, beats them, comes back. We're back in here. We try to switch the field. Bad touch. Player takes it. He drives. He's going to get met by 3 different players. We retrieve the ball again. We lose it. We retrieve the ball again. But notice the entire time, we still have a structure. I know it looks a bit messy, and it is, because we did notice that in this formation, we tended to flatten out. But let's just take a look at the structure again. 3 weeks into the season at 9v9, 4 weeks, I think, on this one. Let's take a look at what we have. Still, we have a center back. We have a center back. Our double pivots in here. My wide player is hanging out behind there. My striker is over here, or maybe one of my 8s. Maybe this is my other striker, actually. Wide player has collected the ball, and the other 10, again, is on top of it. So there is a bit of a cluster there, but around the ball, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green players against 3 white players. So even if they're successful at winning the ball, we're going to probably outnumber them, and we still have passing options. We could play backwards. We could play forwards into the corner space. If they can switch the ball, you can see that 8 is dropped into a center, a pocket of space right in the middle of the field, right here. So lots of options going on here while the opposition has still no relief valve. There's no pressure on that center back, this center back right here. If that pass goes backwards, all he needs to do is pick his head up, and he's got 3 or 4 options. Let's resume this through, see what happens. He turns, plays into the space. I think he wins a corner here. So we'll stop it there. But again, there's principles of having a good attacking shape to then be able to turn that into a counter press when things go south and still have options. The white team didn't have an outlet. They didn't have much structure. So when they did lose the ball, they had no place to go with it. And when we lost the ball, because our attacking structure was coordinated and had players in all different places, they worked together to win the ball back and outnumber the team before they could transition and try to dribble out. Now, this next moment is something I mentioned in that video, and that is the mismatch of size that happens a lot of times in these games, either U10, U12, it's a 2-year bracket, especially in the U12 bracket, between 5th and 6th grade. Some of these kids just dwarf each other. My team is not particularly big, and they're 5th graders, and we're playing a team that's of mixed ages, both 5th and 6th grade, because that's just how our league runs. And when they're in the far zone, they all kind of look about the same, but watch what happens when we come down closer to our corner, what happens in this play. And you're going to start to see the size mismatch and what can happen in a game that sometimes could just break what you're trying to do just by the sheer fact of size. So let's watch this through. So we've got some we got some possession here. We're trying to keep a hold of it. We lose the ball. Number 74 in white, he's definitely in a better spot. He's coming through here. Now, look at the size difference right here. He's literally blotting my player out. Like, we almost cannot see my player. That player is not a small player. He is average 5th grader, perhaps a little bit more average. And the player that he just knocked off the ball right here, this player, is actually tall, skinny, super fast, but just knocked off the ball like he wasn't even there. And so what you're going to see next is what I like to call the bulldozer move. 1v1, my player is too close. They're trying to get through the player to get to the ball, and you can see the size mismatch easily, even at this range with a GoPro, 20 feet in the air. Let's take a look and see what happens here. So he has the ball. He kind of just keeps pushing his way through. As I like to say, it's the bulldozer move here before we get the ball out to clear it. Now, they play out here, and you can see already we've won the ball. Take a look at our structure. So let's take a look at the structure we already have going here. They sent the ball over. They had nobody out wide, so it was an easy collection. So here's my center back. Here's my other center back. This is my wide player who would come in to deal with the danger of this wide player next to him. This is one of my 6s. This is my other 6. This is my wide player, because remember, it was a throw-in over on this side of the field to start, so everybody was pretty much pushed over here. Here's my other, this is my 10, and my striker is still up top dealing with watching out for those. I wouldn't say they're center backs because they also have players behind them. But as we transition here, you can see we're already moving up and out to play. Let's see just what happens here. Yep, finds that wide player who plays down the field. Get rid of those arrows. Almost a goal there. Hits the player diving and whatever. Hits the crossbar on the way through. So again, we talked about from defensive responsibilities, having that structure. You could see it still there. They were still in the structure they were doing. And then as soon as we won the ball, they were able to transition. They had a relief valve if they needed to. That striker was hanging out up at the top of the field in acres of space. If my keeper wanted to go long, they could have done that, but they played the right play. They played out to that open space as we transitioned out. Remember we talked in that video, a lot of times the weak side winger can release sooner than somebody involved in the play. That ball was all on this side of the field, and it transitioned over to the weak side when my keeper picked it up, and my weak side winger just took off in that direction because they weren't marking anybody or trying to fight for a ball. So again, having that ability to recognize, hey, as soon as we get the ball, I'm one of the outlets I can get out, just helps your team move along that much quicker from defense to offense, which is where you want to be, right? Okay, here we are a little bit later in the season, and we talked about the importance of your keeper and starting positions and being part of that defensive unit and being aware. And here's an example. So I'm going to play this through. It starts with a goal kick. We win it back because this is a team who doesn't play out of the back, as I mentioned in my other video about playing out of the back and what to do. If you don't do it in U10, you're certainly not going to start doing it in U12 unless you're really conscious about it. We're going to start with a goal kick. We're going to win it back. Keeper's going to pick it up. He's going to punt it. And that's the action we're going to take a look at here is A, some bad positioning by my players, and B, some good positioning and decision-making from my keeper to kind of rescue them, okay? So let's take a look at that real quick. Let's make sure we are at 1.5 speed. Here we go. So long ball attempt, easily chopped down, play the ball out wide. We end up with a shot on net here at some point, playing across from the wide player. Takes a shot. Good save. So watch what happens here. Let's stop right here. So this team, at least, has one or two of the principles going on. Is on this transition moment, they've got players high, including this striker up at the top here, as well as some other players moving up. So from a defensive standpoint, not a great thing. Look, because when we won that ball back, we were basically playing against only 3 or 4 defenders versus most of the team still being up. But the part that I'm not super happy about is my positioning of my center backs and my 6. 6 is where I kind of want them to be in front of that striker, but my center backs are too high. They're on this side of the field. They're not marking that striker very well. And typical of U12, when there's a punted ball and it hits the ground, it bounces. This is why so many teams try to do this because they hope for this lucky bounce. And here we go. Let's clear this and play it through. You can see the ball goes up, it's over the head, but my keeper does exactly what it is I want my keeper to do. You'll watch me come down here just to finish this before I go back. We actually end up winning a penalty and scoring from that whole sequence. So let's back this up and just take a look at what my keeper did that was so good. Hopefully you noticed it. So there's my keeper. Here he is. Look at the starting position. He's right at the top of the box. Maybe I even want him a little further up, but again, he's a key component in transition for defensive actions, having that player up there. So many coaches still subscribe to the whole sweeper stopper idea, and it just infuriates me because all you do is you play player teams on side. Your keeper is the sweeper. They play half of the game in the field with their feet. When they put on the gloves, their feet don't stop working. And what does he do? He uses his soccer ability, not his goalkeeping ability, to come out and break up this play. So the ball has gone over the center back because of the bad positioning. Perhaps he should have been a little bit more vocal, but that's a skill that he's working on. Striker is on his way to be one-on-one with the keeper. Never gets to that point because he comes off his line, chests the ball out, takes a touch, plays it forward, and the next thing you know, from that action, we end up with a penalty and scoring a goal. So using your keeper as that sweeper, making sure that their starting position is high when the ball's down the other end of the field is just another component of having a defensive structure going forward. Make sure your keeper isn't glued to their end line when the play is going on in the other end. It's There's no reason for it. And it takes some time to work with those keepers to push them up. But over time, you will see so many benefits. I think there's another piece in this video where same thing happens with our keeper. I'll see if I can go find it now. All right, I did. I found it. So here it is. Let's take a look. His starting position, second keeper in, is actually even better. Look how high up he is on the field. The throw-in is way down there in that corner. Here's a center back supporting. Here's the 6. Here's my other center back. Maybe a little bit far to the left, but getting better, as we talked about, getting better. This is a few games into the season, so they're a little bit better. And you can see the other team has no outlet at all. They're all basically at or below the 18, except for this one player here who's not marking anyone. So what's going to happen is we're going to lose the ball. It's going to turn over. And because of my starting position and because of my team being comfortable being able to play the ball backwards and forwards, you'll see what he does to relieve this pressure. Play it through. Center back has it. Not the best option there. Just trying to chop to try to play back. Happens again. He's arguing with the coach because, you know, the coach is his brother. So that's what he's going to do. So here, could have been pressure on the backside and lost it 2-on-1, but instead, simple pass, plays back to his keeper because his keeper was out off of his line. Ball moves up the field and out of danger here. I don't know what happens. We'll just follow this through for a second. Oh, just goes out of bounds. So again, my keeper being available off of his line as part of the defensive unit on the transition just means that instead of having to come or having this pass from my center back having to come towards the goal where there's a player already rushing in, you can see here, we've got this player here that's coming this way. If this keeper is way over here and we have to make this pass all the way over to make, that's a long ball and a lot of time on a grass field to have it slow down if you don't hit it just right, etc., etc. My center back, he's running. It's not really running where he needs to be. The danger's here. He needs to be worried about this. But again, still learning. Instead, center back plays a simple ball down back to the corner because the keeper calls for it, picks his head up. Easy transition through the 6, plays it out wide, just doesn't quite get there, ends up going out for a throw-in. So again, defensive pressure. But here, take a look. Already, there's our defensive structure in the offensive zone already. Widest player out with his marker. Center back, 6. Striker in the 8s. I kind of having a little chat over here. I'm not sure what's going on, but here's my other 8. And then my other wide player went to go get the ball. So again, good structure all around. So even if we lose the ball, we're able to counter press and get back into the play. Okay, we have one more here. Let's take a look at. We're definitely in our 3-2-3 or 3-4-1, however you want to look at that. You can see it pretty clear here. Other team is kicking off the second half. And you can see here's center back, 6. So there's the back 3. Because it's a kickoff, we've got one player. So the 2 8s just happen to be standing there. My striker just happens to be there. And there is my 11, and there is my 7. So everybody's with their marker best they can. Strikers just push themselves to the side. The 2 8s are clogging the middle there. And we're going to watch this through. It's going to come down the right side and then end up on the left side. And we're just going to look at a couple of components in this. But again, really clear to be able to see the shape here. So we'll play for 1.5 times speed reminder. So we'll end up, this ball end up going out for a throw in here. Let's take a look at the shape right here. Okay, so already you can see the structure of my team, which is really pretty good. Right, here's our, if you will, our back 3 in a line, 2 center backs and a 6. Next, we've got our 2 8s. My wide player is in here because their person is there, and then look where my other wide person is. And then, even more importantly, look where my striker is. My striker could literally stand at the top of the D because they're playing us all on side. This game, I believe, was a 5-0 win in this game, and it wasn't even close. Again, we'll look at something that happens with the white team in this course of play as well, so we can have a little example. Let's clear this. What's going to happen, throw-in's going to come, and it's going to go all the way to the other side. There was an opportunity to play up the field, but my left-sided center back here, this kid right here, he has a tendency when he's on the left side and he has space on the left and he has a good weak left foot, he still takes a touch to the inside. And we've actually addressed that with him because we see it over and over again. He's getting better at it. You'll see what happens here. Little spoiler alert, as they say. So we'll play it through. Ball just missed it. You know, welcome to the grassy here. He cuts in when he should have just kept going with the outside ball, but wins the thing. Center back's going to take the throw in. All right, we start to get up the field. Lose the ball in transition. Comes back here. Again, let's just 1 second here. Let's just, right there. Let's just take a look at our shape now. You can see my 6 is actually dropping down because he wants to be an option for this throw in. So he's actually stepping into here, and here's my other center back. Look where my widest player is and where my striker is. So they're keeping the distance, keeping the width of this. And at the same time, I still have a winger and 2 8s in this area. So there's 3 of us on this area. But look, we've pulled the rest of that white team is all over there. There's nothing going on. You're going to see what happens in a minute here. So throw-in happens off a shoulder, get the ball, a little bit of a scrum. 8 keeps it. We play it out wide, kind of steps on it, plays it to the wide player. And you'll see what happens. We end up, he pulls 2 players, turns around, cross in, goal. Actually, a beautiful goal, right? But let's take a look. Just bring this back just a second and see what happens here from the white team in terms of what they miss. All right, so this whole time, the goal scorer is eventually going to be this player right here. And you can see, just as we came out of the defensive action where he was marking that player, now he's starting to go in an offensive area. And the player who he's supposed to be covering is ball watching. He's not watching that player at all. Watch his run into the box with all that happens on the right side. Again, we're in a really good structure. You can see center back. You can just see the 6 right in there. We've got an 8 and an 8 right there. Our striker is the one that actually picked up the ball and kind of stepped over it by accident. And then, so play got in front of him, and he's going to play out to my 7. So let's keep an eye on that far wide player and what the white team player just doesn't do. Just hanging off his back shoulder, just marking, and then he just runs in front of him, and an easy tap in for a goal. So great defensive structure in terms of my wide player keeping where he's supposed to be in case that ball turns over, and then the white player not keeping an eye on the person he's supposed to be marking. When that ball comes across the box, it's such an easy tap in. So great examples of both that defensive shape and structure where we've got multiple lines, multiple players around the ball, and still outlets to win the ball, to get the ball out and play. So there you have it. I hope that you find seeing real world examples helpful. Way back when, I did a analysis of a 3rd grade team's first game, and I had a lot of comments of folks to do more. I think maybe I'll do more of that. Get down in the comments, if you will, if you'd like me to see, you know, a full game analysis, 9v9 or 7v7. I have more videos of my teams back in their first, the second, and now their first year of 9v9 or their 3rd year together. If there's something that interests you specifically, let me know, and maybe I'll pick that up and do that first. But I'm hoping that you could see all the foundations came from 7v7 and have moved to 9v9, giving those players clear roles. Wide players do certain things, central players do certain things, the pair of defenders does certain things, the striker does something, and your keeper does something. And so having those roles and responsibilities, you can boil that down pretty easily in small-sided games, 7v7, 5v5, 3v3, 4v4, and arrange your players to understand. 4v4, you play in a diamond, 2 wide players, a 9 and an 8. You have the basics of what happens in the big game right there, super simplified. The only thing you're missing, put 2 center backs behind them, you have 7v7 with a keeper. All those things you can do in smaller-sided games to reinforce the defensive principles. Now, all those concepts of 1v1 defending, 2v1 defending, 2v2 defending, all again, things you can do in small-sided games, and you can build it up until you do things like those attack defend games that I've shown you a bunch of times where you're in a half a field and you set up the team to either attack against a big goal with 3 or 4 attackers if you're focusing on attacking, or maybe you put in 5 defenders and a keeper and you attack against that if you're focusing on defending. But it's, again, just focus on one side of the ball and work that from small to bigger. Your kids can and will get it. I don't care if it's rec level, town travel level, or club level, whatever that means in your part of the country. So again, hope this is helpful. Let me know in the comments if there's some other things that you might want to see live action for. I'd be happy to do. I have some plans already, but I got plenty of footage to review if we need to. Nothing more to say. See you out in the fields real soon. Bye-bye.